Welcome to another edition of Moon-topia. This is Moon-topia Chapter 6, Choose Your Own Adventure. So this is a monthly live stream in which we explore some of the marvelous moons in our solar system. So many worlds to look at. And tonight, you get to pick, to a great extent, where we go and what we see. So I'm Irene Pease with the Amateur Astronomers Association out of New York City, the Big Apple. You can find us at aaa.org and follow us on social media at AAADOTORG. The visuals I'll be using tonight are both stellarium, which we'll see in just a moment. Check out our night skies, as well as open space, which you can see in the background right now. So you can find those at their respective websites, download them, stellarium at stellarium.org and open space at openspaceproject.com. So again, tonight, I don't know if anyone else is kind of a child of the 80s, 90s. I don't know, back in the day when they had these choose your own adventure books where you had to kind of pick what was going to happen next. So that's what I'm attempting tonight. We'll see how it works. If it's a disaster, we just won't ever do it again. So while I'm putting up kind of the night sky and showing what's going to be up this week and why we're doing Moon-topia this Monday as opposed to a different Monday, I'm going to ask you to comment or like or love, actually, and hopefully I'll be able to see responses. If not, then this is going to be a really short choose your own adventure. Where are we going to start? So we may not be able to cover everything. My plan was to go through the solar system, either starting at Pluto and not getting to Mars, or starting at Mars and not getting to Pluto. I have a feeling which way this is going to go, but you pick. Like or love, like for Martian moons, love for a Plutonian moon, and we'll go from there. But let's go ahead and check out our night sky first. So this is the night sky as seen from Brooklyn right about now, if you're in Brooklyn. Might look slightly different from elsewhere on our world. And you can see Jupiter and Saturn over there. So that's kind of what we've been looking at all through the Moon-topia series. And tonight we're doing Moon-topia because this week, if we fast forward through the days, oh, there goes the moon. So every time the moon passes Jupiter and Saturn, we're having another episode of Moon-topia. And we've been kind of watching them. If I turn back time a little bit to earlier in the evening, we've been watching Jupiter and Saturn get closer and closer over the last several months. And really the big finale, but we'll still keep doing this, I guess, unless people don't want us to. And the big finale is next month when this happens. Ah! So on the 20th, there's not a moon. I think we're going to do Moon-topia a week early to get you all prepped up for it. But this is the big conjunction that we've been waiting all year for. Maybe you've been waiting 300 years for it since the last one, but I have a feeling that you haven't because you probably aren't alive if you were there for the last one. So for that one, that's going to be the first edition. And so we're going to cover the Galilean moons. So we won't visit any Galilean moons tonight. So start thinking of other moons of Jupiter that you might be interested in or that you even know the names of. And, Google is really handy for that. So yeah, so this month, go ahead and check out the planets still. So they'll still be up there getting closer and closer. And of course, later this month in just a couple days, so later this week, I go back a few days. So I think that's kind of Wednesday, Thursday, the moon is going to be zipping by. And so there will be our moon and then all the many moons of Jupiter and the many moons of Saturn. Not all of which we can see in telescopes, but you can see quite a few. So that's what you're looking for and looking forward to for this week and then for next month. So that's the sky. Back over to open space. And let's see what we have in here. Can I even read these? So I'm looking at the comments, responses, and I don't know that I can actually tell which is which. It looks like, yeah, okay. So the loves have it. It's kind of what I anticipated. 2-1, we are going to Pluto first. All right. So off we go. Pluto. And do I have, actually, while we're on our way there, if you know a moon of Pluto, this is our next step. So we'll start with Pluto and we'll work our way in. But if you know a moon of Pluto, just respond to that with that, and we'll visit whichever moon people can name or prefer. So let's head to Pluto. So that's kind of way out there in the solar system. And just a heads up, with open space, oh, we're gonna fly through the Jovian system. That's the Saturnian system. We'll get there. So open space is like all real data, all right? And a lot of these worlds, we don't have very good maps or sometimes no maps at all. Like they've been picked up by, just the Voyagers in the case of some of the outer satellites, and maybe just imaged by, one or two missions in the cases of some of the planets and their satellites. But the image that we're using to advertise, yes, and actually the image that I used for the thumbnail for this, that's an open space image. So I use open space images for all of those. I kind of manipulate some of them a little bit. So that was a blown up version of a couple of the Galilean moons, which we won't be visiting tonight, but you can hang on to your belt and we'll do those next month. So here we are at Pluto. So you can see it has those 5 satellites, and it looks like we're going to Charon. And again, while we dive into Charon, which actually does have a map, so I'm kind of excited about that. I'm going to go ahead and put our next step in there so you can be thinking about that or Googling it or something. So Charon. So actually, I'm going to zoom in here. What we're actually centered on is the Pluto-Charon center. So if we run through time, we can see Pluto has a little trail in its own system, which is pretty nifty because its largest moon, Charon, is a large percentage of its size. So they orbit kind of this common center of mass. So Pluto kind of does a nice little dance around as Pluto and Charon kind of orbit their common center of mass. So every time Charon goes around, zips around in a bigger circle, Pluto turns around in a much smaller circle. So even the Earth does this with its own moon, our moon, Luna. Except for the case of the Earth-Moon system, that barycenter, that kind of center of mass, is actually inside of Earth. So the moon really does go around the Earth. But let's just get a little bit closer to Charon because we can. This is one of the most distant moons that we have images of. I'd say it's the clearest image of the most distant moon. So Pluto, not a planet, but has moons. Very cool. And if we pop in there, when New Horizons went zipping by, it went click, 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 and got some pictures, lots of pictures of Pluto, and also many pictures of Charon. Oh, look at that. It's amazing. So I don't think we have quite a full map of Charon. I'm still going to try to lighten us up a little bit. If we can see, the dark side. All right. So you can see where as New Horizons went zipping by, it didn't even get to see the whole thing because it couldn't wait for Charon to rotate around and, face it on all sides because New Horizons was really booking it. So we don't have a full map of Charon, but we do have, I think it's like at least 50%, some in better detail than the rest. So again, all real data that we're seeing here in open space. So pretty cool. We can see some of the etchings, some of the like kind of pock marks, like from impacts, and also I don't know, some scratches, possibly from ice stretching on it. So I'm kind of impressed really with just the the impacts from so far out in the solar system. There's still so much debris. I mean, and really that's kind of the issue that Pluto has, is that it's in this kind of debris field. But even, you know, a few billion years into the history of the solar system, there's still a lot of debris flying around, cratering some of these outer worlds. So that's our most distant moon for tonight. And now we'll be heading in towards Neptune, working our way inward, a little closer to the sun, maybe a little more light, maybe not. And we have up next, it looks like we're going to be heading to Triton. So I'll aim us at Triton and off we'll go. Very exciting. So I was a little nervous, to say the least, about trying to do this because I'm not like an expert on moons or anything. But I think we looked at Triton a little while back, and I'm going to try to remember. I think that was a retrograde one. So coming in, there's some moons really far out from Neptune, and then there goes Neptune. So Triton's a little ways out here, and I believe we even have a map of it. Yes, we do have a map, at least a partial map of Triton. So let's get a little bit more light on the subject. So we have this neat effect in open space where we can basically just lighten up the whole thing and ignore the shadows from the sun. And we'll take a look at Neptune's large moon. Whew. All right. So let me go ahead, and Uranus is going to be up next. This is a complicated one, folks. Following directions. Let's see how we do. All right. So, so Triton. Whoops. So yeah, I think it's actually the largest moon of Neptune. So Neptune, and it's probably the only one that we have the really, really great images of. So only Voyager 2 made it out here. So we wouldn't have necessarily fantastic data on all these moons out here. But Triton, large enough that, you know, we were able to see it from Earth, so we've known about it for a while. And also, I believe, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, I believe retrograde. So if we turn on time again, see how we do. Okay, maybe a little slower. And I'll actually focus on Neptune. So if we can see the way that Triton is moving around Neptune. Right. And increase time again. So see if we can make this go a little bit faster. Yeah, there we go. That's a great view. Maybe a little slower. So we can see most of the moons of Neptune going around it in one direction, and Triton, or Rebel, going around in the other direction. So most of the moons are going around, or did I mess that up? Wait, it looks like it is. Is it going around the right way? Am I upside down? Yeah, so I can see, I think I could see, unless everything is going so fast that it looks like it's going backwards. Like most of the moons are spinning around this way, but then Triton going the other way. So if we kind of bullseye this, yeah, we can definitely see that retrograde motion of Triton. So I think it's one of the largest moons that has retrograde motion. Most of the large moons are prograde, so they're orbiting in the direction that their planets are rotating. So very likely candidate for having been captured, like something that wandered in from the Kuiper Belt, you know, out by the realm of Pluto, and just got a little bit too close and didn't escape. So locked in there with Neptune. So a little bit of an oddball, but that makes it fun and interesting. So Triton, probably a very icy world. Again, it's pretty cold out there. And that's all I've got on Triton. So I'm going to check on the Uranian satellite status and see if I can see how this is going. So I have a couple reactions here. It looks like we're tied. I have a like and a sad. So checking my cheat sheet, the like is Ariel, sad is Umbriel. And it's funny because those two are both from the same story. So let's just head over to Uranus and I'll mention both. Oh wait, we got another we have another contender. Let's head to Uranus and we'll see what happens once we get there. So Uranus, see if I can find next world in, working our way closer to the sun. Oh yeah, there we go. Uranus. So Uranus is the fun one, the big bullseye of the solar system. But really interesting, even from out here, you can see all these orbits of moons that are kind of all over the place. They're very helter-skelter. So these are some of the smaller moons that are like kind of out here. The ones that I listed, I believe, are all kind of like in the inner regions. So if we come on in here, they kind of the region where the moons are contributing to kind of that bullseye feature. So I think all those are some of the larger Uranian satellites that are listed. And so let's go ahead and see what we have. I think we have had a tiebreaker. If I click on these again, and nope, missed it. So we have 2, 4. Yeah, okay. So 2, 4 Ariel. All right. So Ariel wins. Go Ariel. So both Ariel and Umbriel are from the same story. So Uranus, when it was discovered, Herschel wanted to name it after King George. And everyone who is like not British was saying no. And so they didn't name it after King George. They named it after, a Greco-Roman god, like the other planets. But all of the moons of Uranus are named after characters from British, literature. So either William Shakespeare or Alexander Pope. So the other 3 that are listed here are all from Midsummer Night's Dream. And these 2, Ariel and Umbriel, are from Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. So jumping into Ariel, let's go. Ariel, I think that's one of the outer ones. Is it? Let's see, not quite. All right, so Ariel, and again, Voyager 2 is the only satellite to come out here, so we don't have really pretty maps of Ariel. That's okay, but you can see it is one of the kind of one of the target moons, probably a icy mantle, maybe a rocky core out there. And I did see some images of it. It has like a lot of scrapes and stuff. So think like, when I say like Europa or Enceladus, think Enceladus, all right? If you know that moon of Saturn. I'm not trying to like, probe anyone. Oh, speaking of. So I just mentioned one, but since Saturn is up next as we work our way in, let me go ahead and just pop that in there. All right. So list a moon of Saturn or like someone else's Saturn, Saturnian moon vote. But also very icy. So most of these satellites of Uranus are probably icy mantles and possibly rocky cores, some more massive than others. But yeah, a lot of scrapes and canyons and things on it. Probably from the shifting icy mantle. So that's kind of all I have for Umbriel, unfortunately. But we have, I think just enough time to do one Saturnian moon. Sorry I didn't put that in there sooner, but it looks like people are nominating and voting. And then we'll get to one of the non-Galilean Jovian moons. So keyword non-Galilean. So if you can think of a non-Galilean Jovian moon, or I have some suggestions. So that's it. That's kind of it for with Ariel. Let's kind of head over towards Saturn. Saturn, with all the rings and all the moons turned on, is quite a sight. Saturn has the most moons that we know of in the solar system because we've had a very prolific mission that was there gathering a lot of data. And we were actually able to kind of mine that data and find several more moons even after the mission had ended. That's the Cassini-Huygens mission. So Cassini probe and then the Huygens lander that landed on Triton, which has been nominated. So we have a Triton and Enceladus tie, if anybody else wants to weigh in. Otherwise, I'll go with the first one. But yeah, so that's like just a whole mess of moons. So a lot of this is how like Jupiter is going to look also. A lot of the outer moons, less gravity, probably just captured things that weren't necessarily formed with the planet. So not necessarily orbiting in the plane of the planet's rotation, kind of equatorial, like these well-behaved moons in here, well-behaved-ish, we'll say. So yeah, so in here we have Saturn, and I'm still seeing a tie, so I'm going to go with Triton for the tie. So Triton, and if you want to put in your favorite Triton fun fact, Jacob, since you nominated it, or whoever liked it, can also put that in, why Triton is so awesome. I feel like I don't talk enough about Triton. But we have incredible maps of Triton. We know quite a bit about it. I'm trying to remember which map is loaded in here, and we'll find out in a moment. But Triton is really cool because it has an atmosphere. And there have been some suggestions for future missions to Triton. I believe it's called a dragonfly that would have like a hexadrone helicopter thing. So the current mission to Mars, Mars 2020 with the Ingenuity helicopter is going to be kind of like a test version of it. Titan's atmosphere is much thicker than Mars's atmosphere. I don't recall how Triton compares to Earth. I want to say comparable within an order of magnitude. And yes, it's the biggest moon of Saturn. So Triton, one of the larger moons in the solar system, so appropriately named, atmosphere, and I've heard different things about this map. So here we're actually kind of seeing through the cloud layers. So when the Voyagers flew by, they just saw clouds and they couldn't see through the layers, kind of like looking at Venus, but not toxic. So with the Huygens probe that went in and landed, it was able to find out a lot more about what was behind the clouds, and then what was on the surface as well. And also with Cassini orbiting, and I think it was able to penetrate with like radar or something. So some of the maps that we have, and let me just turn off a little bit of shading here so we can maybe see it a bit better. When we look at Triton in detail, we see things that kind of remind us a lot of Earth. So we see kind of like rivers and lakes and streams and deltas and things. And it's not liquid water, but it's like methane. I used to say methane slush, but maybe a little bit more liquid than just slush. So Triton is so cold that ice is bolder. It's like rock hard, so it's much harder because it's much colder than even ice on Earth. And then methane is a liquid instead of being a gas; it's a liquid. So much colder. So you have like these lakes and rivers of methane on the surface of Triton, but similar like features that we see, and even like it's massive enough. So thanks for in the chat mentioning it's 40% the size of Earth. It's even the bodies of methane, I want to say lakes, but like the lakes, some of the deeper lakes are actually differentiated. So we have, I don't know if there's so much differentiated here on Earth, but you could tell like, a little bit of change in temperature as you go deep down into the lakes, like the Great Lakes on Earth. They are very, very cold at the bottom, but the lakes on Titan are complex and deep enough that they actually have like layers that they've been able to tell. So super great candidate for further exploration. Probably wouldn't want to live there, but a really cool place to explore and just exciting to see so many processes so similar to what we see on Earth. Like I'd say more similar than elsewhere in the solar system because you have a liquid and then the liquid processes on the surface. So very exciting. So yay for Titan. And did I put anything in there about Jupiter? No, I forgot. But hopefully you've been thinking about it. So so our last stop is going to be Jupiter. So you can react for one of those moons, or you can nominate another one. Pretty sure they're all in here. The open space collection of moons is pretty complete, as you can see from that swarm up here. So that's where we're headed, towards the Jupiter. So let's pop over that way. And again, I didn't want to do any of the Galilean moons tonight because that's what I want to focus on next month. So if you like this, we'll do this again next month. First edition. The first moons will be next month. The first moons that we saw that were not our moon. So again, kind of a swarm of moons, outer moons, inner moons. There's several different groups of moons. So I think the 3 that I have listed are from 3 different groups. From the inner group, I think Thebe is the inner group. I don't remember which group Sinope is in. And then the the other one, is actually in a group of its own. So let's see how we're doing on the reactions for that. And we have 2 likes. That's Thebe. All right. And Faisal even nominated another one. Fantastic. I think if I had to just someone met me on the street and said, name a non-Galilean moon of Jupiter, I would just look at him with a blank face. But now I know Thebe. So that's, as I said, I believe that's one of the inner moons. So you might be familiar with the Galilean moons, which you can can see the orbits of those. So we have Io and Europa and Callisto and Ganymede. Kind of nice behaved in the plane there. Actually, one of those is probably Thebe because I forgot all the moons are on now. So let's go ahead and zoom on in to that one. Woo. All right, and just for comparison, actually, before we get too close, what I want to try is to highlight the orbit of Io. So most people might be, Faisal's cheated. So most people might be familiar again with the Galilean moon, so Io being the closest one in. But if I just flash Io's trail, okay, yeah, so it's a slightly different hue. So let's go ahead and take a look because I'm not sure how well this is showing up. I meant to make these a slightly different color. So here we're zooming on this. It has this little orbit going around here, but Io is out here. So it's actually inside of Io's orbit. So we have a few in here that are part of the inner group. And probably not a super pretty picture, but we'll find out. So we zoom on in here to Thebe. Whew. Yep, there we are. It's bald. It looks just like a bald potato. Just kidding. So Thebe is kind of in the outer part of what they call the Thebe gossamer ring. So a bunch of debris and material that's flown off of it. and because it's probably a fairly porous body. So some of the moons have very, very low density. Thebe is probably very porous, made of a lot of water ice, so probably low density. It's kind of irregular, so you can tell it's kind of oblong. So the radial dimensions are in here, so it's not perfectly spherical, and possibly slightly reddish in hue. So being so close to Jupiter, I can imagine like the tidal forces that would be, kind of tremendous for such a little world there. Um, and I don't remember this one. Yeah, it was a different one that was basically about as small as you can get. I don't have my dimensions on this one handy, but relatively small, relatively porous, and very, very close to its parent, Jupiter. So great view of Jupiter if you want to land on there, but probably don't jump around and party too much because if you jump too hard, you might go flying off. Low mass, low gravity. So thanks so much for joining. We zoom out. That was like just a quick trip to one of the Jovian moons. And we'll save the other moons for Mars for maybe another episode of Moon-topia. But thanks everyone for joining in, for contributing, for voting. Voting is so important, as we know. But really appreciate you chiming in for this episode of Moon-topia. And again, we'll do this again next month, so check the AAA calendar for that. I'm Irene Pease here with the Amateur Astronomers Association in New York City. Check us out on our website, aaa.org. Follow us on all the social media things at AAADOTORG. And if you like the visuals and want to see more of those or download them and use them yourself, you can find Stellarium at stellarium.org, and you can find OpenSpace at openspaceproject.com. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Be safe out there.